Ladies and gentlemen, boom! Welcome. Today I have a very special guest, Rebecca Liu-Brennan. This is going to be terrific. Now, for those of you who don't know who she is, here's her introduction, right? So Rebecca's a seasoned dance professional and business owner, 18 years of experience running Pause Studio in Penrith, that's in Sydney, Australia. Her passion for dance and commitment to excellence have helped her build a thriving business that has become a fixture in the local community. Throughout her career, Rebecca has worked tirelessly to develop her skills as a teacher and a mentor. Her dedication to her craft has produced over 60 graduating students who have gone on to become and have a successful career in the dance industry. Her students consistently praise her for her patience, creativity, and ability to inspire them to reach their full potential. In addition to running Pause Studio, Rebecca has also developed several innovative programs that have become popular revenue streams for dance studios around the world. DancerAF, Tumbletown, and Flexibility are just a few examples of the programs she's created that have been adopted by over 200 studios in 6 countries. Rebecca is also a passionate advocate for studio owners and works closely with her business partners Amanda and Nathan Barr to help other entrepreneurs in the industry run businesses of their dreams. Together, they run the Studio Growth Club and Dance Principles United Tribe, providing support, resources, mentorship to studio owners around the world. With her extensive experience and commitment to excellence, Rebecca is a respected figure in the dance industry, and she continues to inspire and empower dancers and studio owners alike. Now, the thing here is I met Rebecca recently at Dance Teachers Expo in Sydney, and that thing was off the hook. It was amazing. So here's to summarize her credentials, because this is going to be a really, really great talk for everyone who runs a studio or wants to run a studio, or if you're struggling running your studio, you're going to want to pay attention. But basically, she's the director of the Performing Arts Western Sydney, that's Pause, and I think there's 4 studios, she can correct me on that. Director of Dance Principles United, co-creator of Dance Teachers Expo, director of DancerAF, which is licensed to over 100 studios, and then, well, over 200 worldwide. And here's the kicker, if you're ready for this, she is a mum to 5. What the fuck? How? What is happening? Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. I'm so pumped to be here, and I loved meeting you at Expo, and I feel like we really connected, and so I'm so excited to chat with you today. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, there's lots of people who maybe run a studio that will be listening to this, people thinking about it. But before we get right into that, I actually want to know, you're a dancer, you're in the arts, so what is the most boring sport? What's the most boring sport? What's something that just like bores that, nah, not going there?
Well, if you ask my partner, he'll say he's obsessed with AFL, right? Like freaking so obsessed with it. And I still cannot get my head wrapped around how that game works. So,
Around AFL? Yep.
it's just like a hot potato. The ball's going everywhere. I'm like, what is happening? That'd probably be my not so into sport, but I try and be into it for him, but I just totally don't get it.
Oh, that's love. That is love right there, isn't it? Right? That's true love, right? He's just, well, I mean, in your partner's name is Tim, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Okay. Is he a dancer? Did you marry a dancer?
No, God, no. We're not married. We're a blended family. But he is blown away by dance. He's now working in one of my companies, DancerAF, with me. And he loves it. But it's taken him like it's a whole nother world, right? Like dance is like this whole thing that if you're not in it, it just seems really fucking crazy until you get in it, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is different. So he's kind of learning all the things with it. But he's, taking it on board. Even last night, so I've got a festival on the weekend, and I've lost my person to be a rhino. And I said to him, I need you to possibly be a rhino for me on the weekend. He's like, yeah, okay. So like,
Okay.
he's just he's really good. He's
Wow.
really on board with everything. So
Yeah. I have a feeling, though, from you that is not the strangest request, right? Like, just
probably
a normal
not.
Saturday. Just normal Saturday. What's up?
Literally. Yeah, so life's a bit crazy with all the things, but we love it. We love the craziness.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're a dancer. It's born crazy, right? And it's a lot of like, look, I mean, guess there's like 2 ways to look at this. You got the perception of what it's like going to a dance studio from the public's perspective, and then there's like what it's like to actually run a studio, right? And
Right.
part of the reason that I do a podcast and YouTube videos is because there's a lot of mindset and performance that I like to get into that is rarely discussed. And so people come for dancing, they leave with life. That's sort of the thing I think about, right?
Yeah.
I want to discuss today and get into the sort of weeds of the idea for business owners, particularly, and dance studio owners don't often see themselves as business owners, right? So because they're creative and arty. So I want to get into that side of things because you definitely hit a chord there. But on a personal level, like, what was one of the most fearful moments you had as a studio owner?
Oh gosh. I don't know that I've had fearful moments. I think we have fearful moments every week with something that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest thing was probably COVID. Like COVID, I think for all of us was a really big, shit, things can really go wrong in life. But that also was my very best time. So, a lot of people crumbled during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really thrived during that time. So I cried for a week when it happened. I really did. I think we all did, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
and then that's how I started my two other businesses. So I decided, right, I've got to pivot. I've got to help people. So I started Dance Principles United, and I started that to really try and help people with Zoom because I was on the forefront.
Okay.
I knew COVID was coming. I knew that it was going to be here. I was trying to tell everyone. Everyone was like, it's never going to happen in Australia. And
How
so
did
I
you know
had
that? How did you know
I
that?
just had a friend at the time who was really close with the whole Chinese thing, and
Mm-hmm.
he said to me, "This is going to happen, so you need to be on the forefront of it." So, and he's really intelligent. So I was like, "Okay, great." So I got my team all ready for Zoom. We were all set up, and so when the bomb hit here, I said to studio owners, "Look, I'll help you get on Zoom and do all the things you need to do. Just jump over to Dance Principles United." So that's how that started. And then Amanda, Nathan, and I just started doing lives to help everyone. And then Dancer, because we had so much time during COVID, well, I did anyway. I was walking a river with my friend, and I said to her, I want to help these studio owners after COVID to make more money in their studios with an extra revenue stream. She goes, well, why don't you do circus? Circus is like something that no one else does, but everyone's doing it now in shows and stuff. Like, why don't you just do that? So I was like, okay. So then I started Dancer. So that's literally how those two things started. So I think out of your most fearful moment comes great things if you rock it the right way.
Yeah, I think you're right there. There's the whole opportunity, right, comes out of the greatest adversity. And so really in the last 3 years then, or last two and a bit, right, you've just gone and created like a licensed program using Dance Circ, for example, but also Dance Principles United, which is like a way for owners to come together and network, connect, have a tribe to be, they're not alone, right, so to speak. That's the idea.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy, hey?
yeah. So that is very cool, and yeah, I guess that's part of the mindset, right? Like that, a lot of people react right to those sort of situations, and why did you actually cry though? Like, why did you get into what feelings were you feeling when you were like, oh my god, COVID's here? Like, what's happening? Like, what made you break down, so to speak?
I think the thought of not being able to teach my students anymore and,
Right.
disconnecting with them and how was I going to cope with that. I was also a single mum at the time. I'd gotten out of a very, very bad, violent relationship, and that was my whole
Oh,
income. So it was like I had to survive with my kids and, be able to do all that. So there was a lot of pressure, I guess, in that sense, to really just make sure that I was doing the things I needed to for them, but also keeping my studio alive. So it was like it was a lot, But
right.
I guess you kind of had that moment where I just said, I'm either gonna fly with this or I'm gonna sink. And I think I tend to have that moment in myself anyway that's just like, right, you're either going to stay in this situation and you're going to be screwed, or you're going to think outside the box and take some risks and see what happens. And, when you've hit rock bottom, which I had probably 6 months prior to that, where you have absolutely nothing, and then you go, right, I've had the worst I can possibly have. I've got absolutely nothing in my life. That's when you go, that's the worst that can happen. And I've got through it and I can do it again. So I'm just going to do this now and give it a go. Because the worst that can happen is I'm back there and I survived that. And
Mm.
so when you have that rock bottom moment, I don't know if you've ever had that, but when you have that rock bottom moment, you kind of are like, right, I'm going to rock life. I'm going to rock it,
You're
And
going to what,
that's
rocket?
what happened.
Fucking
Rock it.
rocket,
I'm
right?
gonna fucking rock like and it's just like you know that you've got to get up every day and just smash goals every single day, and just go for it.
Well, I try to avoid rock bottom, but I as much as possible. But I know what you mean. It's so you had you're in a violent relationship, and then you're running your studio still, right? And
Right.
and how many students are you in your studio, just to give people a perspective on what you do?
So we sit at around 600 kids.
Yeah,
We'll
that's a
see.
lot of
Yes.
management, man. That's a lot of parents. That's a
Yeah.
lot of fires to put out
Yeah,
too.
totally. And look, I've got great team,
Mm.
and that's what I really preach at Dance Principles United is team is everything. I really feel like we forget as studio owners, like everyone knows how to teach dance. That's great. Okay. And they've all got their credentials and stuff, but do they know things like when they walk into your studio, what you expect them to be like, how to talk to a parent, how to close a sale, there's so many things that we don't teach them about the business side that they need to know. They shouldn't just be walking and teaching a class. There should be so much more to it than that. And I think that's where a lot of studio owners find that their team isn't great, because they forget to onboard them. They forget to actually teach them the stuff that's really important. Like, what are your values? If your team doesn't know your values, they're probably just going in and teaching any way they feel like, and they're not actually teaching what you want them to teach.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I mean, that's something I definitely want to get into is the idea of the way to think of things in a different in a different way, like running a business itself. Like, what does that actually mean versus, say, freelancing and teaching? Um,
Right.
and I guess, okay, so having a team. So what, you've got a staff of 24? Is that correct, or
Um, at the studio, I've got
12,
28.
28? Wow. Okay, so that's a different role altogether, right? So again, there's having like one staff member and you owning the studio, and then there's having a team, which again, different dynamic and leadership, right? So I
Correct.
guess that's what people have to think about, is like, what's the end result? So so that's an amazing pivot, by the way. Like, congratulations on actually even doing that, because
Thanks.
even if you get the idea, executing is really difficult for a lot of people. Okay, no doubt people have no shortage of ideas, but execution is very, very hard for most people. So what? Okay, so for you, that rock bottom moment was what sort of inspired you to like go the other way, because you sort of had to, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think so. So, and look, I remember it so vividly, but he actually kicked me out of the house and the kids, and it was a moment where I was like, "Oh my God, I'm free." And so none of my staff knew, and so I was living in a hotel at concert time. I don't know if you guys have concert time for ballroom, but in commercial world, that's a really big thing,
It's a
right? We
big
have this.
thing. It's a big thing.
Right. Okay, cool. So we have the big concert. So I actually had 6 concerts that year because we have a really big school. And I'm living in a hotel with my children. So that was rock bottom, right? But then, we found a house and we rebuilt, and then now I'm like at the top of my game. So I think that rock bottom moment, like, I'm grateful for it now. But at the time, yeah, it was super hard, I guess.
Man, yeah, if I trace back, like, I've been running a studio for over 10 years now. Absolutely, those moments are where generally the better ideas come from, and better ways to do things. It's when you're comfortable. I think that's when I get worried. Like, if I start getting comfortable and
Yeah.
complacent, I actually get a little worried, because nothing stays the same. Yeah, like, especially with students. So you put so much investment, right, of energy and time into people, and
Mm.
then all of a sudden they ghost you. Like, in today's vernacular, it's like, where'd they go, and you don't hear from them again, and that hurt so much when that first started happening to me in the beginning. Like, I took it so goddamn personally. Like, how do you actually deal with that? So for people who run a studio and they've got people they've invested years in, almost multi-generational families coming through, they've got people who've danced with you for 10 years, and then they just disappear, like, things like that. Like,
Right.
how do you actually deal with that? Like,
Yeah, look, at first, when I first had my studio, and I ran my studio really, really badly for about 12 years. So, like, that's
awesome.
why I'm so. It's
Awesome.
true.
Come get some
It's
advice from
true.
us. We'll show you how to
Well,
fuck it up and
like,
then win.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I'm passionate about helping studio owners, because I at first was like making zero money, doing everything for everyone. Exactly what you're saying. Like, if someone left, I'd be a friggin' ball in this corner crying, and now I realize, and this is the mindset thing, right? It is a business. You are providing a service. And the problem with us is we get so invested in the child and the emotion and all the things that we forget that we are actually a business providing a service. And, now when they leave, I just say in my head, I send you with love, or I say it to them if they tell me that they're leaving. I send you with love and you're always welcome to come back. And so I've just made that choice now to see it as it is a business. If I think about myself, I was at a gym for 7 years and then left. Did the gym owner feel like that about me? Possibly, like as humans, we do that. We do tend to do things and then we go, oh, no, try this now. Now try this now. That's what humans do. So I think I've just made that choice to not take it personally. And honestly, I used to get so upset about it. Same when staff left, I'd be really upset. And now I just see it. Yeah, it's a business at the end of the day, and I can still be passionate. I can still love those kids, and I can give them the time that I can when I have them. When I have that journey with them, and that journey might go for 2 years or 10 years. I don't know, but I'm lucky to have that journey with them, and then I send them with love.
Yeah, I think I think that's a nice shift in the perception of things. I mean, paralleling to a gym, like a lot of the times, maybe that's a PT trainer relationship. You've worked with someone for years and then they ghost you, because it feels different when you work with someone every day or two or every week. You build a different type of rapport. But yeah, you do have to recognize that people are paying you for a service, I suppose, and that obviously they have the option to leave, but that relationship side of things can really take people out, right? And I think it can also prevent people from trying to reach further into new territory, because it's a rejection, right? It can feel like a rejection anyway. Like maybe you're not good enough as a teacher because you couldn't keep them, right? Like those sorts of feelings. And that's very common. And how many, I suppose, what's it like here? Because typically, like, the majority of studios are not really owned by men. A lot of them are run by women, right? Would that be your as well? Have you noticed that with Dance Teacher Expo and all those sorts of things?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so because I know Nathan was saying on one of your podcasts about trying to keep things more logical in the decision making, right?
Right. Well, Nathan's very good at that, and that is, like you're saying, it's that male thing. But I don't know that women are so good at that. You really have to train yourself to be good at that, and it's really hard for us to not let our emotions take over, for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's normal though. It's human. It'd be a bit psychopathic if it didn't affect you a little bit,
yeah.
Because you build like a family in it's like a third home. You got like work, home, studio for a lot of people. Yeah, it's like that space where they just can't get anywhere else. And then it's a strong affinity. So I think I guess what are some of the biggest? So there's the curse of knowledge, right? So when you first begin, you're naive. It's like, that's good because you're enthusiastic as hell. You don't know what you're doing, but you're enthusiastic about it. Yes. Then you can know too much and it can make you jaded. You've tried and it hasn't worked. You've tried, it hasn't worked. That doesn't work. Ads don't work. Right. Facebook doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, and then you get like bitter, and then you see people like do better than you, and you're like, ah. And so what are some ways people can actually, I suppose, build a bit of momentum, or like actually take their business or their studio to another level that would be better for them? Like, what are some things you've noticed as patterns in the community, if you will?
Right. So as far as marketing goes, I have one sense of advice for all of you, and that is be fucking consistent. The end. Like, literally, you cannot now these days think that you're going to grow your studio by just putting organic socials up. It's never going to happen. It's not how Facebook works now. It's not how the world works. And me and Nathan and I always talk about, we used to put $2,000 or $3,000 into a newspaper ad back in the day. Oh, yeah. Well, now you have to consistently put that $2,000 or $3,000 against Facebook ads. And if you're not doing that, then, I really find it difficult to know how you're going to grow your studio. So when I actually grew my studio, because there was a long time where I had a very elite studio, we were winning all the competitions, doing all the things, but on the inside, I was making no money, crumbling. It was a hot mess, a hot mess. And I had this mentor who I was paying $500 an hour each fortnight going to, which I couldn't afford at the time at all. Now I pay $36,000 for a mentor for 2 months. It's crazy, right? How much your life changes. And so I was going to him, and I went to him for 6 months, and I cried for an hour every single time I went to him, right? And he sat me down at the end of the 6 months and he said, Beck, you can keep crying every hour that you're here and paying me $500 to listen to you cry, or you can actually fucking do what I'm telling you to do. So that was a good moment for me because I went, oh, I better actually do what he's telling me to. So guess what I did? I actually consistently put money behind ads. And I did that consistently with my preschool classes, which is that 2 to 5 year old age group, for 3 years. Okay. Every day I advertised that age group for 3 years with the happy smiley faces. And I went from 30 to 300 preschoolers in 3 years.
30 to 300, yeah.
Right. Now, obviously, I also had great things in place where, you know, we weren't missing those enrollments and we were calling them and making sure they were coming in, all that sort of stuff as well. But I just know that if you are consistent with your marketing, you can do it. And also, we're doing the ads, we're doing the flyers, we're doing shopping centers, we're out in the community. So it's hard work to grow your school. It's not like I just sat back and went, oh, you know, I'm just going to grow my school now, and it just grew by itself. I worked really hard at it and I worked consistently at it. And that's it. There's no big, you know, exciting thing that you have to do. That's it. Consistency is key. I think consistency is key in life, right? Like if you're consistent in life at anything, you consistently eat healthy and exercise, you're going to have a fit body. If you don't, you're not. Like, it's simple. And that's the same with your business. If you consistently advertise, if you're consistent about your marketing, you'll grow.
Yeah, well, I consistently drink coffee. Does that help?
I do too.
Yeah, I'm surprised my teeth are not like the color of that wall behind me, right? Like, oh my God.
I feel you. You got to have something, right?
It's my lifeblood. But I mean, look, and that's the multifaceted approach, right? So you've got like ad spend, and some people are like so resistant to doing that sort of thing. I don't know. And perplexes me because it's exactly when you don't have money is exactly when you need to spend it on like marketing and advertising. And fair enough, like there's a thing to learn there, but it's not just like one and done, right? It's like one ad and then that's
Correct.
it. You actually have to also have it's like putting good energy out, right? So you're out in the community, you're doing flyers, you're also putting things up on your socials, you're also doing ads to back it. So it's like hitting it from, and you sort of have to do that. Like marketing is something that I work on very heavily in the background for my brands and businesses. And I've studied it like almost like dance technique. Like it takes a lot to actually understand, which is
Correct.
why I think it's very valuable being part of, say, a community like what you're doing, because you can leverage other people's knowledge and expertise much quicker, right? And that's smart. Like if you're a dancer, you go to people who are good teachers. You don't go to like your neighbor and be like, hey, can you teach me how to kick my leg up? It's like, no. Like, I don't know what that is, you know?
Right. And I think having those mentors in life is really important. But I think what everyone needs to know about Facebook is Facebook learns as you advertise more consistently, it rewards you for that. So what people do is they put out an ad for, 2 weeks and they don't get many leads. And then they're like, well, that wasn't worth the money. But if you, instead of putting big spend behind the 2 weeks, put consistent spend behind a year, we always say even a cup of coffee a day. Speaking of coffee, if you put a cup of coffee a day, if you didn't have one of those cups of coffee and you actually just put that money each day behind it, it'll start to reward you. The longer you do it for, the bigger it rewards you. So I'm at a point now with my business, we've been consistently marketing every single day for 6 years now. We don't have any week where we don't get at least 10 leads into the business, 10 trials into the business. That's just because of consistency, and Facebook loves us because we're consistently marketing every day. But it's when you go, oh, I'll market for 2 weeks and then I'll have a month off and then I'll market for 2 weeks. That doesn't work. It's not going to work.
We've found that we run campaigns with an endpoint, and they because we know how to target them well and good copy and that sort of thing, they do convert quite well. But yeah. I am a big believer in like continually advertising, because I think I think it always comes back. But you're good on that, because I don't think I've ever spent more than $20 a day on ads, honestly. Maybe 50, but then never more than that, really, because the ads get fatigued anyway. So that's something people can learn, is you don't need to actually spend a lot. And this trips out people, because we get offers from the local newspaper and they'll call me up and I'll be like, all right, let's go. Pitch me. I'll say, pitch me your thing. But $3,000, you can be on a thing for one day and it's this big. And I'm like, okay, how many leads will I get? And they'd be like, what's a lead? I'm like, bro, I'm not interested in your reach. I don't care. We have 13,000 people read it. I was like, I don't care. I don't care if people read it. I want people to subscribe, join, buy,
Right.
like come to my business, right? Like, so how can you tell me that? Like, no. I was like, well, I'll take that $3,000 for a year, and I will 100% 3x, 4x, 5x that in money, right? Like 15 grand will come back from that in our studio easily. And so, yeah, you can't compete. So it's a very big, it's anyone out there who's like, I don't want to spend the money. It's like, actually, it's the other way around. You're losing money because it's so cheap, and that will change over time, and then the platforms change, right? But okay, so with what is like the number one thing that a studio owner can do now to increase profitability? So, and I want to frame this right. Like, so everyone's working a certain way. They've got classes set up a certain way, a certain time. Some classes have like no one person showing up. Some have like 10, 20, whatever. They've got popular, less popular classes. They've got every time tied up into what they're doing, admin activities. And then there's like, I can join this group. I can be part of that business networking group. I can do all these things in public. What is actually something that the number one thing that you think someone can do to actually increase that profitability?
Just increase your class capacity. Talk to your people. Yeah, like talk to the people that you've got now and say, hey guys, we've got this really cool, I don't know what you guys do. Say in my school, okay, tap is one of the things that doesn't have a lot of people in it, right? So one, we make sure that we're constantly putting on our socials, tap tribe, come be a part of the tap tribe. It's really cool. And then we'll do like a open tap week. Hey guys, come and try tap this week. So you're talking to your current clients who already love you. We just want them to do jazz and tap. Or, we teach our staff that if they're in a hip hop class and tap straight after, they always say to the kids, hey, who's joining tap now? Tap's super cool with Miss Tanya. Make sure you do it. So it's like you can increase your classes or kids, how many kids are doing classes or how many of your students are doing classes just by advertising within your own school and making things look really cool. And that's very, very, very simple to do. And that costs you absolutely nothing. But if you can go from all your students doing 2 classes to 3 classes, that's a really cool way for you to, increase your profitability without any spend whatsoever. And if you, again, like people will go, I put an email out about a free tap trial and no one did it. Like that's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, we'll do socials. We'll make sure our staff know that that's what we're promoting at the time. We'll have posters up. We'll do emails. We'll put it on Band, which is our app that we use. Like we'll do all the things to increase it. And I think that's where studio owners go wrong, because they think that it's just one simple thing, and it never is. You've got to do all the things to make something big. But
excitement, right? Like you got to build anticipation, yeah.
Right, totally. And make it look exciting as well, make it look like it's fun in that class, like they're going to have the best time ever. Another thing, if you've just got one person in class, like that's so awkward.
Awkward.
So awkward, right? Do a taster class. Be like, hey guys, on a Monday we have, Pilates, and we'd love everyone to come to it. We're going to do a taster class in 2 weeks. We're going to put everyone onto a wait list for it and put some scarcity, some FOMO around it. And never do it straight away the week after. Always give a 2 or 3 week leeway to make sure you get lots of people in there. And then make it super awesome. Like if it's an adult class, for example, have like a, I don't know, tea after it or a champagne after it or whatever. Well, I don't know what people do. I'm a big drinker, but some people aren't. So I'm trying to be PG. But
you're trying to be PG. You're struggling. You're struggling, darling.
Struggling to be PG. I also was thinking it's probably not appropriate to have a champagne if it's a morning class, but you do you. But put something on that's got a bit of excitement around it. That's a great way that we built some adult classes in our school, is to just have like that adult class and then do a little function after it and then get everyone to sign up.
Why don't people like tap? Or not like, but what is it about tap that makes it?
Well, that's the interesting thing, right? And I don't think it's that people don't like tap. I think it's what you're into in your school. I didn't do tap growing up. I'm not really into it. My base is ballet lyrical. I've got a gun tap teacher who's really awesome and she's really building it. But I actually think as studio owners, we also have to self-reflect and go, why is tap not popular in my school? Oh, probably because I'm not into it. Why is lyrical so popular in my school? Because that's my jam. So like you've got to self-reflect on that too and go, right, am I actually teaching that class great, or is that the class I hate teaching? Maybe I should put someone else on it.
Yeah. I mean, I love kids, but I struggle with kids classes, man. Like I'm too brutal. I'm too like,
Right.
their children, be friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I've got 300 preschoolers in my school and I hate preschoolers. Like I cannot fucking stand them at all. I can't I I don't want them
Love
near
the
me.
honesty. This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
But I've got rock star teachers who love them, I've got preschool classes on right now. I don't really go there in the mornings. I'm pretty sure most of the parents don't even know that I'm the studio owner, but my staff are rock stars. They love it. They, make them little cards and they just think that they're the most precious little things ever. And that's the thing. Like, you've got to know what you're great at. You're not great at teaching kids, but then if you have a kids program, you've got to have a rock star teacher in there who
Yeah.
teaches kids.
You're right on the money there, because this is like, my brain's going into the different modalities and levels of operating a business, right? There's very much a difference between a startup and a seasoned, scaled, multi-million-dollar business, right? The very different way of operating, even if you're the same person that was at the beginning and you're there at the end. And I will get to that in a minute. So it's very important for everyone watching to just like hang on to this if you want to understand a bit more about how to operate a business really, really well. We've got Rebecca doing a fucking amazing job. So, but I do want to know about this. So, okay, there's the thing you're good at as a teacher, right? So, you love, say, lyrical, yeah, and not so much the tap, but that didn't prevent you from having that within the studio. And
Correct.
and that's something that I've struggled with. I'm like, oh, okay, so ballroom dancing, Latin dancing, New Vogue, that's sort of our specialty. But there's this whole other array. Do you think that you need to add in other styles to make the business more profitable? Or do you create different types of classes within your genre that could appeal to more people? Do you understand what I mean? So should I, for example, should I add ballet into my studio? You know what I mean? I'm not a ballet dancer, but I could get teachers. You know what I mean? Do you do that? Because again, it takes time. It could be risky. It could devalue your brand in a way because you're not known for that. So
Yeah. I think you got to go back to your why. Why are you doing it? What do you love about it? It's For me, I want to create dancers who are all-rounder performers who can go on contract. And, we have lots of different streams in our business. So we have ballet, we have musical theatre, we have commercial, we have all the things. So if I want to create a performer who can go into that many contracts, then they need to be able to do all the things.
true.
And so that's why I want to offer it at my school. Do I bring new things in just for the sake of it? No. And I'll give you a perfect example. Cheer in our space is huge, right? It's this massive thing. Everyone's doing cheer. Now, I've chosen not to do cheer. One, it's not my jam. Two, we have way too much other stuff going on. Three, I don't really think it's going to help anyone get a contract at the end of the day. And don't get me wrong, I'm not just about getting people contracts, but if a kid does want a contract, I want to be able to get them there.
No, that's
So
good.
that's why I do it. If you wanted to bring ballet in, you'd have to have a why of that is, which is either people are asking for it, or it's going to somehow give your performers some edge on everyone else so that they're going to, I don't know if your jam is more competitive or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, right. So like that would be a reason for bringing it in. And then if you are going to bring it in, you're going to have to say, this is fucking epic, guys. You guys are going to kill it because you're doing this ballet class, or make it compulsory for your competitive people. Guys, you need to do this ballet class now because this is going to make you this, this, and this. So I guess you just have to go back to your why. And look, I sound like I'm all about creating these performers, and I'm not. So our whole thing, our overriding thing in our school is creating confident kids. That's what our jam is. And when I say that, we take that through every single class in every single thing we do. For example, every teacher has to mention every single child's name in one positive way every single lesson. It's little things like that. When you walk into the studio, you're greeted by someone who gives you a cuddle and says hello to you, who knows everything about you. Like we have things like that just make the studio this amazing, beautiful place so that every single child feels like they're building and getting confidence and doing all the things. So that's what we're about as a whole. But as far as bringing programs in, that's where I'd look at it. And when people want to take circus into their school, I say to them, like, circus is the new acro, I think, in our space. And so circus is going to, every cruise ship has circus. Every show you see now, like you go to Vegas, circus is everywhere. So performers are going to need it. So that's where I look at circus is something that people are going to have to bring in.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because it can be, I got going to the Dance Teachers Expo for me was great because I got exposed to an entirely different world. Like I did ballet when I was a teenager and jazz and tap. but not for very long. And then I went heavy into ballroom dancing, and you just go down this rabbit hole, and that world is like its own planet. So it was wonderful being exposed to see an entirely different culture of dance, and the way it's teaching, and the way business owners approach trying to run a studio as well, and then seeing sort of how that works. And so are there any cautionary tales, like what not to do? So if you're looking to expand your business, right, what are some things you should not do?
I think you shouldn't expand before you have money. And let me say, with the preschool thing, right? I hate preschoolers. I taught preschool in my school for years and years and years. I think you should not do things that you're not good at. That's probably my biggest
Okay.
advice. So I'll tell you what I'm terrible at. I'm terrible at money, like managing money, you know, budgeting, doing all that stuff. So I have someone who does that for me. And yes, I spend money on that, but it's well worth it. Or like teaching preschool, it wasn't really my jam, especially after I had kids. I found it really hard to teach preschool. Then bring a
Mm.
rock star teacher in. But you've got to do it bit by bit. I don't want anyone out there to think that I've just created this massive studio and it just happened overnight. It was like, okay, I hate teaching preschool. How many more students and money do I need to make to spend to get a preschool teacher in? That many. Okay, I'm going to get those students in, and then I'm going to get a preschool teacher in. And then you know how I look at it? I'm buying time.
Hmm.
So now I have 2 hours in the morning that I'm going to work on my business to build it a little bit bigger, and then I can put another teacher in or another thing in. And the last thing I would say is make sure you have systems. If you don't have systems in place, so many studio owners don't have systems in place, and if you don't have systems in place, like even a basic spreadsheet for your leads is a great system to have. If you don't have that in place, you like you're just going to falter, because studio owners are just constantly running. We're always running. They're always so busy. We're talking to people. It's such a high service industry that if you don't have systems, everything falls through the cracks and it crumbles.
Oh yeah, like CRM, baby, customer relationship management system. That's a
Right,
minimum you should have, and if
right,
you don't know what that is, you're missing out on some easy
right,
management for your business. My God.
right.
When it comes to teachers, do you build them from in house, or do you just like do you advertise for them?
Oh, a bit of both. Look, my best teachers, I think, are my ones that were in house,
Hmm.
for sure. Who grew up with me, and I mean, one of
Knows your
them's my
way.
studio. Yeah, one of
Yeah.
them's my studio manager now. She's just absolutely amazing. But I think as well, like when I bring teachers in, I mean, we have staff training every single term. It's a non-negotiable that they come to staff training. I'm not teaching them how to teach dance. I'm not going to go to my tap teacher and try and teach her how to teach tap. I don't know how to do tap myself. I'm teaching them the ins and outs of the business. So, what are our values? What are we working on with? What are our goals for our students? What do I expect for you to post on social media every single time that you teach? We have an app. There's an expectation they post what the kids are doing on the app every single time they teach. How do I enroll a student? How do I bring a new student in if I'm doing a routine at the time? All of that stuff, that's the stuff we teach them every single term. And I've had teachers who've been with me for 15 years and they still have to do that same training every single term,
Yeah, that's
because
good.
that's how you make that business work like clockwork, right?
No, that's really good, and that's also like coming into the system side of things. There's definitely a systems orientated type of thing, training like that, because you're reinforcing like the fundamentals, but then you're also like anything new coming in is being spread the same way, and team can like come together over any problems or promotions, right? So that's really cool. And like, have you ever read a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber?
I have not.
So this book is fantastic, right? It's one of the original like business personal development books, but it's still a top seller, and it's called The E-Myth: Why Small Businesses Fail. And to summarize it, there are three types of people essentially. There's the entrepreneur who has the vision, and you can't catch this person because they're always like next idea, but they've got a
Yeah,
vision for how things should look. There's the manager who is dot the i's, cross the t's, receipts must be paid, invoice on time. And then you have the technician. And the technician is where most people are. And so the technician in our industry is a dance teacher. And so, for example, a dance teacher, this is the problem, right? So you've got the technician, which is like the majority of people think, okay, I'm really good at teaching dance, therefore I'll make a really good business owner. It's like, no,
right.
they don't translate. And this is why businesses fail in his idea. And then, of course, the ideal being you are a technician, but you're also the entrepreneur and the manager. So you can sort of get those three things, but it's not your space. So a manager doesn't make a good business owner either, but also an entrepreneur does not make a good business owner, because they have to put the systems in place for the manager to thrive and technicians in place to run the business. A manager can't run the business on their own. They need an entrepreneur there, and then they need the technicians, right? So you see how it sort of comes together. It's a fabulous idea when you really break it down.
Yeah.
So one of the big issues is that people get thrust into business ownership because they're a really good teacher. Maybe they're fantastic with people. They can really create great dancers, but then there's the business side of things. And it's like, I just don't want to think about money. You know what I mean? I don't want to think about it. I don't want to ask people to pay things, you know?
Yeah.
I just want to teach. It sounds familiar. Yeah? It's like, oh my God, that's me. So the business owner side of things, okay, what are some of the, so do you still teach?
Yeah.
You still teach, great. And it's because you love to teach, yeah? So, but you could not run the business at the volume it's running, right? And teach, correct?
Right. Yeah. And like, I don't teach a lot. So I teach sort of some of my elite students private lessons, and then a couple of my favorite kind of classes. So I'm probably teaching maybe 8 hours a week, if that. So I'm not teaching a lot, but last year my studio manager was on contract and I was teaching 27 and a half hours a week.
Okay.
That was a lot.
That was a lot
To try and manage the business and teach that much and do all the things. That was crazy.
That's crazy. So what I suppose the majority of people that are running studios, are they like one-man bands, one-woman bands? Do they have a couple of staff typically, or no staff? Like, where are people at when they first?
All over the place. No, we have people with like staff of 20 or 30 and huge studios, and then we have people who are just starting out and are just teaching themselves. And look, you know, I think the principles can work for everyone. I think everyone can keep learning about. I love it when people who are just starting out are smart enough to actually go, okay, I need help with the business side of things, because exactly what you're saying is exactly what happens. And that was me. That was totally me. You know, I was a really passionate teacher. I can get kids to a really elite level, and I win competitions really well. I'm really good at fucking winning. So that's great, but that is not how to run a business. And, you know, that's why I failed for so many years. And it took a lot of self-realization to go, right, you actually have to learn how to run your business properly.
So what is that? What is running that business properly? Is it putting the systems in place? Is it hiring the right team immediately? Like, what are those sort of steps in this, so to speak?
Yeah, like I said, bit by bit, put a system in place. Put one system in place that's going to really, really work well for you.
What system do you think would be a good one to cover?
I always think people have holes when they bring new students in. And I think you can't grow if you're not bringing new students in. So like you were saying, you need a CRM if you can do it, or a pipe drive, or even, like I said, a spreadsheet is simple enough. That's just like, this person called and here's what happened. And now they're coming in and now I need to call them back because they didn't turn up. And just something like that to get rid of those holes is the very first system I would say to bring in, because then you're going to start growing. Once you start growing, then you can go, okay, I now need an admin person in, and I now need this in, and now I need this and this. But it's got to be a slow process. It can't just be, okay, I'm going to hire 50 people and I'm going to smash it, because that's, you know, not going to work. You've got to grow a little bit.
Good luck with the training. My God, you'd be like, what have I done? What have I done? Where's that tequila? Oh my God.
Yeah. And if you do have team members, start checking in with them. You know, I always say you should be checking in with your team every single week, even if it's just a 5-minute conversation. How's it going? How was your class today? You know, what are you feeling? Blah, blah, blah. I always watch back. So I'm not at the studio a lot because I've got 5 kids, as you said. But, you know, I've got an app called Band, which I highly suggest every single one of you gets out there. It is the biggest game changer of any studio, I think, because the thing with parents today is they want to see what their kids are doing, right? So the reason I bought Band into the studio is because this angry circus parent came up to me before a concert, right?
Angry circus parent. That's
oh my God.
Fantastic.
Wait for it, right? So her kid does circus, and there was about 30 people in my waiting room, and she was fucking angry. And she came in and she was like, apparently there's some concert this weekend. And I'm in my head thinking, Yep, we've sent out 50 billion emails. You know what it's like,
Yep.
right? We've sent
Yep.
out 50 billion
It's on
emails.
every
But
year at the
I
same
always,
time, you know.
right. But like, honestly, I'm the parent who doesn't read any kids' emails. I never know the things. I miss my kids' stuff all the time. So now I really feel for those parents because I'm like, okay, I get you. Like, you're busy. So she came in and I've never met my child's teacher. I don't even know what goes on in there. And so, like, she's saying this to me, and you know what I thought in my head? Fair call. Actually, fair call, because we don't let people in to watch circus ever, not even for watching week, because there were toddlers running around. And I was like, someone's going to get killed. So we don't let them come in. Also, you probably never talk to the teacher. Also, you probably don't read emails. So, you know, that's when we got banned. And band is like a game changer because every single week my staff post on the band and say, so we'll have a 6 and under band, and 6 and under jazz will be on. They go, oh my gosh, the 6 and unders were so great in jazz. Here's what they did today, guys. And people can comment and they can inbox teachers. And it's like, suddenly our clients who are so far away from the business, just their kids go in and dance and they don't really know what's going on, now feel connected to the business. And that makes a huge difference. When clients feel the connection, they're going to keep their kids there for longer. Because, you know, for those of you who don't have kids out there, just so you know, when your kid gets in the car and they've been at school all day and you say to them, oh, how was school? What did you do? Nothing. Like, the kids don't go, oh, mum, and we did this and then we did this and it was so cool. There's like nothing, you know, like they just don't talk that much to you. So that's the thing with dance too. They get in the car, how was dancing today? It was all right. Like they could have had the best fucking time ever, but they get in the car like, yeah, it was good. So parents don't see that, you know. And when you're watching a kid on a footy field every weekend, you can see what they're doing. But in class, we don't really have that with dance. You've got to think about how you can share that love with your parents. Share the amazing things you're doing.
That's smart. I could see that. Like building more affinity with your brand as a studio. Like it gives a personal touch that you can't get out otherwise. I'm still caught on angry circus parent. I think that's hilarious. Like, I'm just gonna walk around and be like, that person looks like an angry circus parent, like for sure. Look at that person. My God, they need a hug.
Yeah, sometimes parents do need a hug though. Parenting's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah. Look, see, I like that idea. Does that cause a bit too much problem with teachers though, like having this almost instant communication with parents, or is there a bit of a wall there?
Well, I actually think it's better because they don't contact them on Facebook or other platforms. And I've taught my staff to look, what I say to my staff is what you allow will continue. If you're going to if a parent contacts you on Facebook and you reply to them at 10:30 at night, guess what? You're allowing that behavior. That's your choice. If they contact you on Facebook and you say to them, hey, this isn't the platform we contact on, it's on band. Also, I'll only answer you between this and this time because that's my work hours, then that's the behavior you're allowing. So you're going to either allow that behavior or not, but we teach our staff to talk to them on band, you know, at their time that's appropriate for them.
I love that, actually. So I'm still going to be looking for those circus parents at some point because I didn't even know like people taught. I'm so ignorant. I'm like, I didn't even know like circus was like a thing you could teach in a studio. I'm like, I thought that was like a specialty thing, you know, in a different world outside of dance. And
right.
Yeah, so there we go. I'm learning all the time. Okay, so for people who are teaching, and have maybe a dream to run their studio, but they don't feel like they could, what are some of the, I suppose maybe the attributes or maybe the mindset too, but what sort of the attributes I think of someone who makes a great teacher and a great business owner? Like, is there parallels to that, or can anyone really learn how to go from being a teacher into a business owner in that sense?
Look, I think anyone can learn, but I think you've got to realize there's so much more to it involved, because when you're teaching people who love what you're doing and they want to be there, and it's great. When you're being a business owner, you have to deal with staff. You know, you've got to deal with confrontation nearly every single day. And you've got to be able to understand systems or put systems in. It's not just that fun teaching part, and that's the hard part. And I think the biggest thing that people do is they avoid that confrontation. Do you find that like business owners will avoid the confrontation with staff or with parents, and then it turns into this massive big thing, and it's really emotionally draining and exhausting? And so I think, you know, understanding that there's so many more layers to it is probably the thing that needs to
Yeah.
happen. But
And
I do truly believe that people can learn, because if I can learn, I think anyone can.
I think you're right, because the mindset that got you to become a teacher, which means you've become exceptionally good at your craft, right? You don't just become a teacher dancing out of nowhere. You've definitely gone through the rigmarole to become good. That you just have to apply that into learning a different modality, so to speak, which can still be creative. Like running a business is very creative, but you're right. Like the confrontation, people just freak out about that sort of stuff. And I've had to train myself not to be a people pleaser and to become more assertive, and to say, no, this is how we're doing it. And I found by doing that, the culture has always been something I'm very proud of, because there's little, like we just attract a certain clientele because of that type of leadership. If you don't do it, the problem is you end up letting other people control like a narrative, and then that ends up creating a different type of culture that you want. So it's actually better to be a bit more assertive and to get out there and to be in front of people, say, this is what we stand for, this is what we're about, we're not going to put up with this. And by doing that and saying no, which people get afraid of doing, but by saying no, you actually are saying yes to what it should be, what the possibility of the potential of people should be, right? And the culture and how it should look. So it has to be done, and you have to prune the bad seeds off all the bad fruit, right?
Right. And sometimes that's your best answer. And that's the thing, like you've got to be so strong in your values and what you're doing, because again, a lot of studio owners will have that really great dancer and that dance mum who's actually the one that's the loudest, and she's the one saying, you should do this and you should do that and you should try this and that and that. And so then you're like, yes, I'll have to do this, but it's not you. So, you've got to just really be strong in what you want. And I'm really strong now. I wasn't. Again, I definitely wasn't. And I used to listen to those people and I'd change what I was doing. And you're right. You've just got to say, okay, this isn't the studio for you. I don't think this is the right place for you. And, I'm going to do things my way. And look, because I've had so much success, I guess, with students and stuff, I can now say to people, look, I do know what I'm doing. I've had this amount of the kids go on to careers. But if this isn't your jam, that's cool, man. Go to where you think your jam is. I send you with love. You're welcome back. And just being really strong in yourself with that. I think as well, dealing with confrontation straight away, because what we see a lot of people do, and what I used to do, is I'd be like, oh my gosh, this situation. And then I go talk to this person and go, what am I going to do about this situation? What am I going to do? And then I'd be awake at late and go, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about that situation? Whereas if I just fucking called the person in the first place and said, hey, there's a situation, which is what I do now, you're not wasting all that time and energy on that situation. Yeah. But that comes up every single day, right? Like, it's crazy. Yesterday, for example, I had to deal with a parent who stole stuff, and we saw it on CTV cameras. And I was freaking out about calling his parent. Like, that's a hard thing to do. I've never had that situation before. Yeah. And it was like, wow, I actually have to call this parent and tell them that I've got footage of them. And this is a high-end parent who spends about $300 a week at my studio, right? So this is a high-end parent, and we've caught her stealing. It's like, that was, and that's what I'm saying, that confrontation never stops. That, your business constantly has all these different things, and it's tricky, man. It's tricky.
How did you handle that? So you called the parent and said what? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I just said, look, we've, noticed that the kids are wearing a few things off the rack that you haven't purchased through, because we have an app that they purchase through, Shopify it's called. Yeah. So we've noticed that you haven't purchased them. Also, we've got on the footage that you've stolen a couple of things. So there's a couple of options. You can pay for the items that you've stolen, or I can contact the police. That's how I said it to her.
Okay. It's so strange to have conversations like that with.
Yeah, very strange.
So you got angry circus parents and thieving dance parents. It's just.
But we all have that. But we all have that.
Of course,
it's constant. Yeah. That's the thing. It's constantly changing. You're going to have so many different walks of life coming in that you've got to deal with in different ways, and learn to confront all of those things and constantly self-reflect. I think it's really important. With that angry dance circus parent, I could have done what a lot of studio owners do and gone, well, we've sent you 50,000 emails, and that's her fault for not reading her emails, and how pathetic, and right. So we can think of it that way. Or what I teach people to think is, she's tired, she's probably got a lot of kids, her kid probably got in the car crying, and then she feels like the worst mum ever, and she probably doesn't have time to read emails. That's how I look at it. So it's like, right.
Empathetic. Yeah.
Right. So then you've got to self-reflect and go, how as a studio can we help this mum? How can we connect more with her? How can we help her to understand what's going on with her child? How have we failed, and now how can we succeed? And I think you've got to look at that across the board with everything, every conflict you have, self-reflect. You know, that's, have you ever read The Compound Effect?
Yes, by Darren Hardy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right, exactly. So he talks about that. You know,
Definitely.
in a relationship, he says, if there's anything ever that goes wrong in the relationship, you should constantly self-reflect, and you should be the same as a business owner. It's like, what have I done wrong? How can I change this? How can I fix it? Not constantly blaming other people, because that's a surefire way to fail, right? But it's like, okay, in this situation, what can I do?
That's what the benefit of ballroom dancing is. You get a partner. It's also
Right.
not a benefit, right? Because you're forced to self-reflect often. What did you do wrong?
Right.
What did you do?
Right. I love that.
And it's your fault because you're the dude. You know what I'm saying? What did you do?
Right. Like a whole other world.
It's
so cool.
Yeah. Like you're attached to someone who is like literally reliant on you being good. Otherwise, you go nowhere, right?
Right. That's a lot of pressure.
Imagine doing ballet and just someone's glued to you, you know, and then it all circus. It's like someone's just stuck on you, and like you have to perform perfectly together. You've just made my career twice as long. Thanks.
Yeah, totally.
I wanted to give one strategy to people, just to backtrack real quick before we finish up on what you were saying before about when we talked about systems, like what's one thing people can do, and you were talking about bringing people in. That's generally called onboarding, right? Like in a way. So you've got a lead that comes in and people come into the studio, yeah, and so part of it is something that I remember we teach within business coaching. So when I go into a business and help them to maybe create a system, one of the main places to start is called the customer journey. So if people haven't heard these terms, these are important, but generic terms to understand. Customer journey is essentially like people don't know you, they learn to like you and they trust you, then they buy from you, right? And so in that journey, right, where are they coming in? What are they doing? And even people who are your patrons for years, they're still on a journey. And so you got to be aware of that, but it's a different journey if they're already there, yeah? So one of the things that people can do very quickly is, especially if they're like, okay, this makes sense. Rebecca's like, she's the GOAT. She understands what's going on about this. Take your Post-its, yeah? And just actually write on there, for example, like add, next one, right? Like, call, next one, like free trial. And just put them on a wall in front of you and actually like map each step a person comes into your business from, and then how they actually are, whether they're greeted. So for example, you go a bit deeper. Okay, lead comes in, they call you, they sign up for a trial. Then they get what? Maybe an email a day before, a text message an hour before, they show up at the door. You post that out, and then how are they greeted? Who greets them, right? The studio, it's done. The lesson is fulfilled, the product is fulfilled, whatever the service is fulfilled. And then what happens after, right? They're asked to buy, join, and then they move into the next stage. So they've sort of been part of the journey. They're going into onboarding essentially as a client, right? And just putting Post-it notes, it's so simple. It's really,
I love
really
that.
powerful way. And if you are a veteran business owner, so I did this with an orthodontist who's been around for 25 years. We mapped all the journeys, like the whole staff, and did this over a 2-day period. And the wall was just Post-it notes, like in lines. But it was great because it was top to bottom, right? And you could see where people were at, what to do, what to fix, where the holes were, because there's so much you don't think about that you do automatically. That works. It definitely works, right? Like people come back. But that's a really easy way for people to take away what you said and actually action it and do something with it now. And then go, okay, I see the holes. What do I need to do? And then what you need to do is, join Dance Principles United, right? Come to Dance Pitches Expo. What? Yeah. And hit the like button, because that'll increase your business.
Right. I think, like, I love what you're saying. It's so clever. I'm definitely stealing that. But what I love as well, and what we do a lot as well, is go into it as a different type of parent or a different type of client. Because if you think about a preschool parent, they're going to be very different to the parent of a 10-year-old, right? So, like, what kills me sometimes is, do you have preschool for ballroom? I don't know. Is that a thing?
I had a 4 to 6 class, and then I just killed it because I was like, honestly, I couldn't deal with the parents. But that's because that was my weakness. I needed a teacher.
Right. You need a rock star in there. Right. So, like, I just think, like, people will say I'll say to clients, what are you advertising right now? I'm advertising preschool. Awesome. Let's go to your website. And then I got to scroll to find preschool. So, it doesn't. And then oh, let me look at your Facebook page. I've got to scroll to find the Facebook post about the preschool. If you're advertising preschool, that parent has to see preschool. If you're advertising adult ballet, that person has to see adult ballet on your feed, on your website, all the things. So think about that initial part and then think about their journey as that particular person. But something we do for onboarding once they have signed is we give them a little card, okay, and it's got QR codes on it with here's how to get on Band, our app. Here's our socials page. Here's our opt-in for this. So it's just got like little QR codes. QR codes are so easy now, like flyers to preschools or flyers to schools with QR codes. It's just a no-brainer to me. Everyone wants to use them. QR code to, your opt-in and just make it simple for people.
Yeah, and if you don't understand what opt-in is, you definitely need to learn. So yeah, because each in a business setting, right, you have verticals, right? So the vertical would be, for example, in ballroom dancing, where people who've never danced before, so that is a vertical, right? People who have done competition, different vertical, and the messaging and marketing has to be different for the both of them. And people often just use a pistol versus or a shotgun effect, so to speak. They're just like same message for both, and they are very different audiences in the way you message and market, right? And again, I think that's the real takeaway for people to understand today with the marketing side. Run ads, but then understand how you actually run those, and that's a skill. Don't be afraid to do it. I encourage everyone learn, because I have seen people who have the talent to run a business well, but they fail. They don't really fail. They don't quite like make it work in that sense, because they're always missing something because they don't know what to do when business goes down, right? When COVID hit, that was actually worse for me because I was doing very well online before that. And then everyone came online because like no one was teaching dance online when I was there, right? And when I say no one, I mean like it was very, oh my God, like it was Blue Ocean Plus. I was like, oh my God, this is just amazing. I could just catch Marlin all day. Then all of a sudden, it's like everyone had to go online. And like my numbers halved across the board from money to views. And I was like, what the fuck? And everyone hates it. I mean, I remember you saying like, who here wants to teach another Zoom class? Everyone's like groaning, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, me, I fucking loved it. But I was already doing it, and I was doing it really well, and I was crushing it. And then everyone came online. I was like, no. So it actually forced me to have to like keep reinventing, right? To keep pivoting as well. So that's what I'm saying, everyone. You don't arrive. Please know. You can make things work, but then you have to have the mindset side of what Rebecca's been saying. You have to be able to continually innovate, reinvent, and keep moving, right?
Exactly.
Any last thoughts on that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the key. And, even with your marketing, you've got to try things and see if it works, and then try something else and try something else. And I think with marketing as well, a lot of us market to our peers instead of actually marketing to our client. So, I think people will connect with emotion, right? So you've got to think about that emotion. But yeah, definitely, like even in our studio in a group last night, we had someone saying, the economic crisis is happening and it's going to be so bad and I'm already losing kids because of it and blah, blah, blah. And me being me got up and said, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to be fucked for everyone. Guess what else was fucked? COVID. We got through that. Like, guys, you're going to constantly have ebbs and flows in business. That is going to happen. It's how you deal with it that's going to change. And it's like you said, that happened. Everyone came online. I'm sure that you then pivoted and tried other things and tweaked it and did what you needed to do to get to where you are today. And that's what everyone has to keep doing. You can't just stay in the same place. That's never going to happen because business doesn't stay in the same place. The economy doesn't stay in the same place. The world doesn't stay in the same place. So you have to move with it. And you've got to do that to really get your business growing consistently. Those big companies who have lasted for years and years and years, they're not the same. They keep changing. They keep changing it up. They're okay to take some risks. They're okay to put themselves out there and try some different things. And that's what successful business owners do.
Yeah, you're right. And half the battle is actually outlasting people. I've found that in competition, like you can have people more talented than you, but they don't last because they can't keep a partnership and then they get burned out and they quit. And in business, it's the same. You'll have people that can do it really well, but only for a short period, and they just can't sustain it. So with this COVID thing, the numbers came back because after a while, the majority of people that went on for that year couldn't sustain it, didn't want to sustain it, dropped off. Right. So if I interpreted that as, oh my God, I'm failing, now my numbers have halved, I'm doing worse. And I started to get that narrative and start to believe it and start to think, oh, I'm shit, my business isn't good, when there was so many factors I could not control, then I would have just taken myself out. And that's very important to that I try and push that into my students' brain. I'm like, it doesn't, like, the immediate result is not what like, it's feedback. It's not an indication of future potential. And so what I ended up doing is going, oh, well, I'll just outlast. Because that's what I fucking do. I outlast, man. Like, I just do it. You know, you like to drink, I like to drink. Let's go. Let's outlast, right? You want to dance? I will fucking outdance, right? Let's go. You want to party? Let's go. 2 days, let's go, right? But that's my motto, right? So I may not be the best,
Right.
but I will outlast. And I've noticed that the numbers came back, right? They started to, because people petered off. And that's a really nice distinction to know, is that it isn't actually always you, right? So it's there's factors outside of yourself, but if you stay in the game and you're around the right people, you have the right information, that is what will serve you, right?
Totally. Be consistent. Be consistent is the key, right? And like, just don't stop doing what you're doing.
Legend.
And things will fail.
Rebecca,
things will fail.
Amazing. Fist pump. Boom. Thank you for having you. Thank you for having
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being you and coming on my podcast today, and for everyone out there. And how can they reach you? Where can they join your tribe?
Oh, you can just join our free group, which is Dance Principles United. And yeah, we're on there, and we'd love to have you guys just on Facebook.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Cool.
And Dance Teachers Expo next year. Check it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. 20th and 21st of April.